you ever done something and immediately thought, "What have I just done?" Or did you suddenly think of something that was bad, wrong, or very strange, and you got scared of yourself? It's not just you who has this problem. In fact, there is a battle going on inside every human being, between good and evil, logic and impulse. But the question is, where does this battle begin? Robert Sapolsky's book, Behave, takes us to the deepest secrets of human behavior, the biology, chemistry, and history behind our best and worst forms. So the next time you start saying something in anger, or feel a strange hatred for a stranger, then stop. Maybe the answer is not in your mind, but in the story of humanity that is thousands of years old. This story begins now. Lesson 1. Understanding biology of brain. Imagine this. A soldier pulls the trigger. A split-second decision. A man's life is lost. Understand human behavior. We have to go way back beyond that one moment, to layers of brain biology, culture, and history. We often say, everything happens for a reason. When humans behave well or badly, it's not by chance. It's hundreds of years of evolutionary history, environmental triggers, and social conditioning. What happens before the trigger? Just before a gun fires or someone commits a crime in anger, the oldest part of the brain is activated, the one we inherited from our evolutionary ancestors. This part handles basic instincts, fear, defense, or attack. But not just instincts. In the seconds before that, our brain is reading the environment. If you are in a war zone, even the slightest sound becomes a signal of danger, and we become aggressive. The same person, if he is in a peaceful environment, may react completely differently in the same situation. But the story does not end here. The behavior that is visible today, its foundation was laid many years ago, when we were growing up. Our society, our culture, our childhood experiences, all have shaped the way we think and react. If someone has seen violence since childhood, then his mind starts considering it as normal. And if we go back thousands of years, even the geography and environment of our ancestors are found to influence our behavior. Lesson 2. What brain part controls aggression? Imagine an ordinary man suddenly kills his wife and mother. No reason for anger, no argument. Just like that. But was it really just like that? Aggression. A decision made within a second, but after years of preparation. When a person does something in anger, attacks someone, yells, or breaks something, two parts of his brain are making decisions at lightning speed. 1. Amygdala, which triggers fear and anger. 2. Frontal cortex, which says, "Wait, this is not right." Real-life story #1. Charles Whitman. The killer with a tumor. 1966, University of Texas. Charles Whitman first killed his wife and mother, then carried out a mass shooting on campus. He left a note. "I don't understand why I am doing this." When he was autopsied, it was revealed that a tumor was pressing on his amygdala. The tumor had impaired his emotional processing. His violent impulses did not come on suddenly. They were the result of neurological changes. Real-life story #2. Phineas Gage. The man who lost his filter, 1848. A construction worker, Phineas Gage, got an iron rod stuck in his head. He survived, but he was no longer the same person. He was once calm, sensible, and responsible. Now he was swearing, being irritable, and doing strange things. Why? Because his frontal cortex was destroyed, the part that inhibits aggression and makes a person socially appropriate. Science-backed truth. Amygdala signals us, there is danger, respond. The frontal cortex asks, is this the right thing to do? When the amygdala is more active and the frontal cortex is weak, then a person can become impulsive and violent. Studies also say the same. Most violent criminals have been found to have damage or less activity in the frontal cortex. Lesson 3. Sensory cues shape our behavior. A man is standing in court, accused of the same crime that someone else committed. But the verdict? He gets a higher punishment. Why? Because his facial features are considered stereotypically African. Welcome to the dark truth of sensory bias. Our five senses send signals all the time. A light touch, a loud noise, or a glimpse of a face. And from these sensory cues, our brain starts making decisions, often without our consent. Face flashing experiment. In a test, when white participants were shown faces of different races for 0.1 seconds, the amygdala was more active when the face in front was of a different ethnicity. What does it mean? Our brain recognizes danger, but based on cultural association. If the image is shown for a little longer, the frontal cortex intelligently calms down the fear in the amygdala. But the first reaction, that is unconscious bias. Reality check. Courtrooms and eyeglasses studies show that black defendants receive higher sentences if their features are stereotypically considered criminal. So some lawyers deliberately make their clients wear clunky white nerd-type glasses to change the perception of the jury. A small visual trick, but it can save lives. Music and race cues. And it's not just visuals. Music also triggers subconscious reactions. In another experiment, when rap music, which is considered to be associated with African American culture, was played with the same face, the amygdala's activity increased. But when death metal, music associated with white culture, was played, the same effect was reversed. A black student even started whistling Vivaldi while returning home at night, so that people would not be scared. Social context, risk and romance, and it's not just race. We react in gender context, too. Research says, when men are around women, their behavior changes. They spend more, make more daring decisions. Perhaps too, make it look like, I am capable, I am a provider. Lesson. 4 hormones effect. A courtroom. A man accused of rape. Some people say, the cure for this is to eliminate testosterone, but is man really a slave of his hormones? Testosterone, the blamed villain? Everyone thinks testosterone means aggression, but science says something else. Yes, aggression is reduced by castration. But this does not mean that testosterone is the root cause. Studies show inmates who are more aggressive in jail have high testosterone. But the opposite is also true. Their behavior increases testosterone, like a circle, in which behavior starts, not hormone. Equation of amygdala and testosterone. Amygdala, the area of the brain that controls fear and aggression, is full of testosterone receptors. If someone already has violent tendencies, then testosterone further amplifies that behavior in them. But if nature itself is calm, then testosterone is just a background chemical flowing quietly in the bloodstream. Oxytocin, the hormone of love or of blind trust. Oxytocin, known as the love hormone or trust chemical, suppresses the activity of the amygdala. When participants were given oxytocin in an economic game, they trusted the other players more, even when those players were cheating repeatedly. What do you mean? Oxytocin not only increases trust, but also blind trust. Context matters. Same room, same hormone, different results. But the twist is, oxytocin's effect was seen only when the other person was in the same room. If the player was anonymous in another room, then oxytocin's magic failed. The thing is simple. The hormone was the same. Lesson 5. Childhood and adolescent. A 14-year-old boy points a knife at someone outside school. People say, he is a born criminal. But the truth is, the story begins with his mother's anger and his father's shouting. Adults 2 years of childhood. The brain develops up to 85%. But the remaining 15%, that is the real game changer. The frontal cortex, which controls decision-making and impulses, does not mature until the mid-20s. That is why in teenage years people are impulsive, take risks, and sometimes lean towards violence. The Supreme Court of USA also accepted the brain of juveniles is different, and for this reason life imprisonment without parole was declared illegal for them. Double impact of neuroplasticity and childhood trauma. The brain is like a sponge in childhood, soaking up every experience. If those experiences are of love and security, the child becomes a blossoming tree. But if there is poverty, abuse, or neglect, the brain's development becomes disproportionate. Studies show 33% of adults who are abused in childhood go on to abuse their own children. This cycle never ends if it is not stopped in time. Amygdala versus frontal cortex. When the balance is disturbed, childhood adversity leads to overdevelopment of amygdala, more fear, more anger, more reactivity. Underdevelopment of frontal cortex, poor decision-making, impulsiveness. And when both are in imbalance, the result is a lifetime of unstable behavior and violent tendencies. Lesson 6. Cultural factors. Think about it. A child grows up in the streets of Honduras and another child grows up on the clean streets of Singapore. Are they living in the same world? Probably not. So far we have learned that to understand human behavior, we need to understand brain physiology. But now the story takes another turn, because the wiring of the brain is also influenced by culture, cultural conditioning, the social DNA and thought. If the murder rate in Honduras is 450 times higher than that in Singapore, the difference is not just a matter of geography. It is a difference of mindset, values, and upbringing. Individualist cultures like America, there is more focus on personal success, individual freedom, and self-identity. Collectivist cultures like East Asia, the purpose of life is group harmony, the well-being of others, and collective thinking. Game of culture and brain activation. In a study, it was seen that when American people see their own picture, their frontal cortex gets activated rapidly, meaning self-awareness and ego are more prominent. But East Asian people do not show that much activation when they see pictures of their relatives. They consider themselves as part of a group, not a single entity. Sensory processing is also culture-driven. Another experiment. When people were shown a picture with a complex background in which a man was in the center, Westerners remembered that man in details. East Asians remembered the entire scene, background and context more accurately. Cultural morality. The ground of justice and morality also changes. In collectivist cultures, utilitarian morality is more, meaning fewer people can be sacrificed for the good of more people. Example: if an innocent person has to be sent to jail to stop riots, then the culture there may consider it acceptable. But if the same thing happens in individualistic countries like America, then punishing someone without due process will be unacceptable to the society. Lesson 7. Local ecology and geographical influence. Have you ever wondered, why is Japan a more cooperative society and America a more independent society? Why do some societies emphasize on we and some on I? The answer is not just hidden in culture, but in the soil and environment of the earth. Ecology shapes culture. Rice cultivation forms the framework of thinking. Rice cultivation took place for centuries in East Asia, which is a collective farming. Every farmer had to share water, time, and land together. This is why collectivist thinking developed there, living in a group, thinking for a group. But the story of northern China was different. Here, not rice, wheat was cultivated, which a person can do alone. Result? More divorces, more patents, and more individualistic thinking are seen in these areas. Geography defines mindset. America example. Why is American culture so individualistic? Why is believe in yourself a common thought there? Because America was built on the land of immigrants, people who were marginalized in their own countries, who wanted a chance to start over. America's frontier society, a constantly expanding country where people had to plow fields, build cities, and run the law themselves. This gave rise to self-reliance, aggression, and an I'll handle it myself mentality. Southern USA, where the law did not reach, justice came on its own. The southern part of America has always been more pastoral, open fields, remote villages, and less government control. This is how people learned, there is no law, no problem. I will do justice myself. This led to the deep roots of violence and gun culture there. These traits can be seen there even today. Lesson 8. Political views and morality. Have you ever wondered why some people always blame the system, and some people always blame the individual? The biological story of thinking. In a study, people were asked, What is the real cause of poverty? Initially, both liberals and conservatives said poor people are responsible for themselves. Maybe they are lazy. But as soon as they got time to think, liberals said, no, maybe there is something wrong with the system. Society is against the poor. Conservatives stuck to their first answer. Now imagine, if someone falls while dancing. At first, everyone will say, hey, he is clumsy. But after some time, liberals will accept that maybe the step was difficult. That means they also consider the situation. Secret of neurobiology. Thinking is not only mental, it is also physical. Now, the surprising thing is that there is a difference in the brains of liberals and conservatives. The cingulate cortex is more active in the brain of liberals. This part is related to empathy, i.e., understanding the point of view of others. The amygdala of conservatives is larger, which increases fear and threat perception. Therefore, conservatives are more anxious in risky situations. Safety and control are more important in their thinking. Moral thinking, speaking the truth or lying. Now, talking about morality, when you tell a lie, your frontal cortex becomes active. It works to stop the impulse of speaking the truth within you. But those who are honest by nature, their frontal cortex is not active at all, because the thought of lying does not even come to their mind. That is, speaking the truth is effortless for them, whereas lying becomes a mental load. Lesson 9. Empathy, compassion. Have you ever seen someone being pricked by a needle? Your hand also gets stiff, right? This is empathy, but is it compassion? No. And this is the most surprising thing in this chapter. Empathy. Feeling pain yourself when you see pain, when we see someone in pain. Like someone getting pricked by a needle in their finger. The anterior cingulate cortex, ECC, of our brain gets activated. This is the part that teaches us to fear the pain of others, meaning empathy is more related to self-protection, not to the feeling of helping. Meaning, we do not feel pain because we want to help, but because we want to avoid that pain ourselves. Empathy is biased. Color, caste, race all have an impact now. Another shocking thing. The level of empathy also depends on our perception. Take the same needle example. If the needle has pricked a person like us, then empathy will be high. But if that person is of a different caste, race, color than us, then amygdala gets activated, which is associated with fear. Result: empathy decreases. This is the reason why many times people are more compassionate on seeing someone like themselves and indifferent on seeing the other. Compassion. A different neurological system. Now the real twist. In a study, 2 groups were trained. 1. Empathy group. They were asked to feel the pain of a distressed person. Result: amygdala got activated, anxiety, stress, and negative feelings increased. 2. Compassion group. They were told to just feel warmth and love, and not internalize the pain. Result: frontal cortex activated, calm, positive emotions, and desire to help increased. That is, compassion is more sustainable and pro-social than empathy. Final summary. Think, when someone shouts in anger, or when someone cries seeing a helpless person, which parts of the brain are activated? Robert Sapolsky's book Behave answers this question. And this is what we learned in this journey: behavior. A biological and societal cocktail. Sapolsky explains that human behavior is not just a matter of morality or sanskar. It is a complex process, which includes brain wiring, amygdala, frontal cortex, cingulate cortex, hormones and neurotransmitters like dopamine, testosterone, cortisol, society and culture, our upbringing, history, geography and ecology. Every emotion, every reaction, every decision is a product of a neurological signal and a social background. The science of our good and bad looks. Why does aggression occur? When we feel threatened or the territorial instinct awakens. Why does empathy decrease when the other person seems different from us? How are moral decisions made when the frontal cortex smartly weighs things? How are collectivism or individualism formed? From the centuries-long influence of geography and agriculture. Important to understand, not to judge. Sapolsky says a powerful thing. If we understand human behavior in its complete biological and historical context, then we can become more compassionate towards others and responsible towards society. Our decisions, reactions, and instincts, all these are not random. They are deeply programmed and culturally shaped responses. If you liked this journey of human mind and behavior, then do subscribe to our channel, Book Bytes AI, where we bring you extracts of such amazing books, which increase knowledge, deepen thinking, and make you a better person. Subscribe, like, and tell us in the comments, which was your favorite chapter. We will meet again in this journey of knowledge. Till then, remember, understanding is the greatest wisdom.